Welcome to the Brain Warriors Way podcast. I'm Dr. Daniel Amen.
And I'm Tana Amen. Here we teach you how to win the fight for your brain to defeat anxiety, depression, memory loss, ADHD, and addictions.
The Brain Warriors Way podcast is brought to you by Amen Clinics, where we've transformed lives for 3 decades using brain SPECT imaging to better target treatment and natural ways to heal the brain. For more information, visit amenclinics.com.
The Brain Warriors Way podcast is also brought to you by BrainMD, where we produce the highest quality nutraceutical products to support the health of your brain and body. For more information, visit brainmdhealth.com. Welcome to the Brain Warriors Way podcast.
Hey, everybody. So excited for you to be with us today. We are going to talk about one of the most controversial topics that just generates a lot of smoke.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I'm not that excited to talk about this topic today. It's kind of personal.
So we're going to talk about the impact of marijuana on the brain. And so the first time I was offered pot, I was in 10th grade. And my best friend, at least I thought it was my best friend, came with a bag that had green stuff in it. And he said, "Oh, we should do this together." And I'm like, "No, I'm not okay with that." And for me, I just never really wanted to lose control. I'm one of the very few people my age, almost 63, that has actually never smoked pot and never done any drugs because I didn't want to lose control. Now, of course, I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't want it to damage my brain.
Right. So mine's not nearly as rational as yours. Yours was a rational reaction. Mine's an emotional reaction. So for me, marijuana is probably not as, in the same category as heroin, but they all get lumped together for me because drugs were a big part of our family history. Not my mom, thank God. But in our family, it was traumatic for me. And so probably the one really positive thing my uncle did in my life was create PTSD for me and anxiety around drugs. So badly that I still can't listen to 70s music. So most 70s music.
So you were a little girl in the early 70s.
Right.
So you were born in 1968 at the beginning, really. Well, maybe not the beginning, but in the middle of the drug culture, the drug revolution.
Sex, love, and rock and roll, yes.
Sex, love, drugs.
And rock, yes, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, yes.
Drugs and rock and roll.
Right.
And one of your
free
first
love, yeah.
memories is of your uncle being murdered in a drug deal gone wrong.
Right. And my uncle who was doing drugs would do any drugs, okay? I mean, heroin was probably his first choice, but he smoked pot a lot and he did a lot of he drank, whatever. He did all sorts of drugs. So for me, that whole culture, they scared me. They literally looked like if there was anything that was like, we see all these zombie movies now, The Walking Dead, that's what they were to me. My uncle weighed probably 95 pounds, maybe 100 pounds, long, greasy hair, and his girlfriend was that or worse. He OD'd twice. And so, yeah, it wasn't on pot that he OD'd, to be fair. But for me, that trauma they're completely all lumped together. And I can't separate them. So even 70s music kind of freaks me out.
So, but one of the reasons we're talking about this is we just published a study here at Amen Clinics on just about 1,000 people who smoked pot and then compared them to a healthy group. And every single area of the brain we looked at, 128 different areas of the brain, were significantly lower in people who are smoking pot than in the healthy group, especially the right hippocampus, which is this seahorse-shaped structure in your brain that helps short-term memories get into long-term memory. And when the hippocampus is damaged, it's actually one of the first areas of the brain that dies in Alzheimer's disease. And with 26 states now have legalized it, 10 of them specifically have legalized it for dementia. We just have to go.
That's a joke.
We should at least talk about this. And
he's a lot more politically correct than I am.
Well, I'm actually glad it's legal, because putting potheads in jail, how does that make sense?
I agree with you, because you don't want to.
Well, put them in a cage.
Right.
Chronically
you socialize them to a negative.
Sleep deprive them. Give them terrible food. And then let them hang out with people who do seriously bad things.
And then let them out.
This is not smart. Right. But in my mind, it's not smart to say, well, it's innocuous. Because when I started looking at scans in 1991, one of the first things I saw is that people who smoked pot had lower blood flow to their brain. Their brains had this sort of icky, toxic appearance. And now, does that mean it's bad for everyone? I mean, interesting question. Our father-in-law died last year of pancreatic cancer.
And that was the only thing that would actually alleviate his pain. But he wasn't smoking, and he was eating brownies and chocolate and whatever. In a situation like that, I'm all for it. That was a medical use, a truly for real medical use. Not one of these like I'm going to find a way to get it for medical use. We have to touch on this idea that when you're smoking pot and you're involved in a culture or it's affecting your life negatively, if you do have children or your families, you have to think about how it's impacting everybody, not just you and your brain. So,
well, and when we taught the Brain Warriors Way course, our 26-hour, 26-week course that's available for people, one of the great testimonials we got was from a young man who said, I haven't smoked pot now in 3 months, and I feel so much better. And
we just got another one. We just got another one from a young woman who said the same thing. And she didn't think she'd ever be able to not smoke pot because she thought she couldn't sleep without it. And she has a very, very, very high stress job. Very high stress. I mean, kind of crazy. So for her to be able to, her hours are not regular, for her to be able to do the program and send us a message saying, wow, I'm sleeping better than I've ever slept. Who would have known? And she's had people comment on how vibrant she now is. So there are other ways. There are other options. And I know sleep and relaxing and pain are big issues. So we'll talk about that.
So my experience as a psychiatrist for a long time is smoking pot can significantly decrease motivation, can decrease school performance.
Right.
Not for everybody, but for enough people. But also decreases anxiety,
right,
and can decrease pain because it's decreasing overall activity,
right,
in the brain. So if you start with high activity and you feel worried and anxious and panicky, yes, it can help short term, but it can also cause long-term problems. So we just recently scanned someone who's actually really well known as a supporter for pot, and his brain just looked awful. I have another friend who helped me with our NFL study. And he's always sending me articles on why pot is good for the brain. And when I met him up in the Northwest, he's like, I've smoked it every day for the last 50 years. And when I got a chance to scan him,
it's like we can tell.
His brain looked awful.
Right.
And so let us not say it's innocuous.
It's not going green, as you like to say.
It's not going green. But and there's a new study came out the same time my study came out, from Norway, that if teenagers are smoking pot, it more than tripled their risk of becoming psychotic.
Wow.
And that's a problem. And that's actually a replication of another study. So pot is now a big industry in places like California where it's legal, in Colorado where recreational pot is legal. So it's a big industry. And as soon as someone like us says you need to be cautious, then all the haters come out. So we see it whenever
I can handle
we do a live chat.
It's okay, bring it.
Our goal here on the Brain Warriors Way podcast is just to tell you the truth as we see it through the lens of people that have looked at, I just found out today, 128,000 scans on people from all over the world. So it is...
Your favorite verse, know the truth. And the truth shall set you free.
And the truth shall set you free. So if people are anxious or they can't sleep or they're in pain, when we come back, we're going to talk about alternatives to pot. Stay with us.
So we are back talking about pot. Not my favorite topic. If you listen to the last podcast, I'm feeling like my blood pressure is a little bit up, but I want to be fair. So is there ever a time that it's appropriate to consume marijuana in different forms? And the answer is probably yes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And also for when it's not appropriate for you, for when it's not good for you, and you know that it's affecting you and your family negatively, what are some of the alternatives to anxiety, sleep issues, pain? We're going to talk about that as well.
Temper problems.
Right.
And so I have patients who've had traumatic brain injuries, who've then become terribly aggressive.
Right.
And
like severe, we have one with severe traumatic brain injury. They can't take him in public because he has a weird reaction. He attacks men. He just attacks men. So that's a pretty severe issue.
And when he consumes pot in cookies or
chocolate, brownies,
like that, the aggression goes away. And as we talked about on the last podcast, when our father-in-law had pancreatic cancer, marijuana really helped with the pain. Other people use CBD oil and say it's really helpful for children with seizure disorders. Now, because it has been federally illegal, there's been no research money. And so you can find case stories for anything is good for you, including sugar.
Right.
But I think our thought process is if you've tried the other things and they've truly not been successful, then this could be something to think about, but not marijuana in general. Because the THC not only gives people a high, it can trigger mental health illnesses, mental health problems. And so the study is likely going to be with CBD oil, which is one
minus
of minus the THC.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the studies. All I can tell you is being a psychiatrist, and I'm a child psychiatrist, and so often what we would see is somebody 14, 15, 16, never look like
try
they
12,
had
11.
ADD, and all of a sudden they're in my office because the parents think they have ADD. But they didn't have it at 6, they didn't have it at 8, they didn't have it at 10. And my first thought is they either had a head injury, and that's why they look like they have ADD now, or they picked up pot. And parents go, no, no, no. And then I'll see their scan, and their scan looks toxic. Overall decreased blood flow for their age. And I'll have the teenager by him or herself, and I'm like, why does your brain look toxic? And they'll start to cry, and they'll say, you won't tell my mom, or you won't tell my dad. And they'll tell me they've been smoking pot for a year. And their decrease in school performance parallel their pot use, or, sometimes it's alcohol use. And so what I would say, it's not okay for a developing brain.
So, and I've seen this actually, because we have a teenager who's in junior high, and 4 of the kids, I saw this explosion happen. She's actually now homeschooling by her choice. But 4 of the kids that she started school with, who are now partying, smoking pot, drinking alcohol, have been expelled. So it's a big deal. And their parents think that it's not, they don't believe that, they think their kids are really good kids, and it just is a misunderstanding, and they're completely unaware of the reality. So it's sad.
So I've not seen it improve brain development for anyone. But, the common reasons people use is they can't sleep, they're in pain, or they're struggling with anxiety. And so let's talk about alternatives to pot that might not have the side effects of decreased motivation, decreased blood flow to the brain. And so many of my patients talk about decreased memory because it shrinks the hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure that gets memory into long-term storage.
Right.
And so what are some of the things you found helpful for anxiety?
Yeah, so I have trouble sleeping and I'm a little anxious. So for me, we say it all the time, so it begins to sound rote, but it's just so true. Meditation. Acupuncture is really good. I love, my chiropractor helps me as far as just really relaxing everything. Exercise. All of those things are really my key to unwinding, and I don't do well without them.
So you actually meditate every day?
Yes, I try to, and I really try to focus on something. And this is not always easy, okay? So, when there's someone that's really causing problems in your life, I will literally sit and meditate in a positive way and pray positively for that person. And it's hard. You have to practice doing that. Pretty soon it becomes easier. But what I find is that, they've actually done studies on forgiveness and on prayer and meditation. And if you won't do it for them, do it for you. Right? Because when you don't let go of that anger and fear and anxiety, it actually increases your anxiety when you don't let go of that anger. And you're the one that pays the price. It's like drinking a cup of poison and expecting the other person to die. Right? So you're doing it for you. You have to focus on
mental health hygiene.
Right.
And one of our favorite meditations is a loving kindness meditation. And it's really simple to do. And you do it to 4 people, to yourself, to someone you're thankful for, someone you're neutral on, and someone you're having trouble with.
Now, in theory, it's easy, but you have to practice doing it with the person that...
So it's, may I be healthy?
Right.
May I be happy? May I be at peace? Something really that simple.
Right. And you repeat
yourself, repeat it for a couple of minutes for yourself.
Yeah.
To someone you're thankful for, like I would do it for you.
Right.
To someone you're neutral on. And
the store clerk.
To someone you're having trouble with.
Right. Someone who makes you really angry. And that's where it takes practice.
And it's been found to decrease anxiety, decrease the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
Decrease migraine headaches, decrease pain, and improve sleep. So, how simple is that to take 4 or 5 minutes a day and close your eyes and just repeat, may I be healthy, may I be happy, may I be at peace, may Tana be healthy, may Tana be happy, may Tana be at peace, and then someone neutral, and then someone you're having trouble with, and then you're done. So,
and this is not one of those like pie in the sky, it's like, Pollyanna, like I'm going to, it decreases.
Yeah, I like Pollyanna.
I know you do. Decreases my anxiety thing. This is studied. Like these types of meditations have been studied. Forgiveness has been studied, and relaxing your brain, doing these things have been studied. And the reason why is because they decrease stress hormones. So burn patients heal better, right? They actually found that people with cancer, autoimmune disorders, those types of things, they begin to get well because those hormones actually begin to settle down, because those autoimmune reactions begin to settle down.
The other thing is diaphragmatic breathing.
Yes.
In fact, Chloe was having some anxiety recently, and I got her on Brain Fit Life, our online program and portal. And I took her to a game we have online called My Calm Beat that just teaches
great
her
program.
to breathe at about 5.5 breaths per minute. And if you can just slow your breathing
And belly breathe.
and breathe more with your belly, more diaphragmatically, that it actually has an immediate anti-stress response in your body and can really help with sleep. Also on Brain Fit Life, something you use a lot, something I use a lot, are their 6 hypnosis audios. There's one for sleep, one for pain, one for weight, one for anxiety, one for peak performance. And hypnosis is so powerful.
Love it.
In fact, the one for peak performance on Brain Fit Life is one I did for you when
Right.
you were testing
For my first black belt.
Your first black belt.
Yeah.
And people love that.
Yeah.
It's
really
we just
helpful.
got a testimonial about how important the hypnosis audios are. Hypnosis is just so powerful.
So
and when I
powerful.
first learned how to do it for patients, one patient, his Parkinsonian tremor went away. Another one, his heart arrhythmia went away. I used it all the time for procedures.
And medical hypnosis is amazing. So where your focus goes, your energy flows, and it's very powerful.
So meditation, diaphragmatic breathing, hypnosis, very powerful tools.
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture, especially for pain.
Right.
And so opiates, like heroin, decrease blood flow to the brain and decrease pain. Although what's really interesting to me about opiates is they decrease pain in the short run. They actually increase pain in the long run. There's a new study where they looked at white blood cells in the spinal cord.
Right.
They would give the rats heroin. And even though it settled down their bodies and settled down their pain, it made the white blood cells go crazy.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so short-term benefit, long-term trouble. So whatever you can do to avoid opiates, then that's a good thing to do. Now, you have to be out of chronic pain because if you're in chronic pain, you're going to try and kill yourself because it's a serious negative situation. But I always go, what are all the other things we can do first? And what acupuncture has been shown is it decreases pain, but it increases blood flow to the brain.
And so I actually do experience chronic pain because of my scoliosis. So I have scoliosis, and I love to practice martial arts. Probably
you like
not
beating things
I do.
up.
I
even
love
though you
hitting
have chronic
things. It's
pain.
like the best therapy on the planet.
How does that make any sense?
Because it's good therapy, and I love it. But anyways, probably not the best combination. But
does she listen to her doctor? No. Sorry.
I'm not going to comment on that. But anyways, what'd you say? I'm a psychiatrist's dream. Actually, sometimes I'm a psychiatrist's nightmare. But anyways, so I do experience chronic pain in my back because of the scoliosis. And for me, it does affect my sleep. It affects my sleep a lot sometimes. But what works for me besides the meditation, some people love it, some people don't, just like acupuncture. My chiropractor, like literally changes my life. I go in and it just relieves the pain almost instantly. And it's more than just that pain in that spot. It's like this whole energy release thing. And I can't really explain it. So between that and the meditation and prayer and stretching, I'm able to manage the chronic pain. I have to go regularly. You don't go once, and expect it to go away. It's a hygiene thing.
So there are also supplements that can help. And we have a whole group at BrainMD Health. For pain, my favorite supplements and what we often used with the NFL players that we saw, many of them had chronic pain, were SAMe, capital S, capital A, capital M, little e, S-adenosylmethionine, has been shown to help with mood issues, but also with pain.
Doesn't it also help a little bit with like focus?
It can help with focus.
Yeah.
And omega-3 fatty acids, and often higher doses.
Yeah, I
of
take high
omega-3
dose
fatty acids
Yeah.
because they decrease inflammation.
So I take 5 grams a day.
For sleep, we like magnesium.
Lots of magnesium.
Melatonin. And for anxiety, there's so many things to try. Theanine from green tea,
Right.
GABA, which I really like a lot, ashwagandha, brand new study on ashwagandha, shown it helped decrease obsessive compulsive disorder, one of the anxiety disorders. Also, holy basil, which is an adaptogen and has evidence it can decrease anxiety. So there are so many alternatives to smoking pot.
I want to touch really quick on that sleep issue before we end really quickly, because it's such a big issue for people who smoke pot. So I have a lot of trouble sleeping because of the thyroid issue and the pain sometimes and things like that. So you touched on the magnesium. I just want to really push on that a little bit. So I take about 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate before bed. I only have to take about 1.5 milligrams of a time-release melatonin. So I'm partial. I really like the one we make because it's time-released, and so I don't wake up in the middle of the night. But you can take
restful sleep.
Right, you can take 3 milligrams.
People love restful sleep.
Right, and you can take 3 milligrams of it safely, if you need to, whatever. It's actually good for you because it's a very, very powerful antioxidant. So there's not a problem with it. It's not like sleeping pills, which are actually going to negatively impact you. So there's a lot of things you can do. You just have to play with your cocktail. I also use tea. Okay, so I do they're called bedtime teas or nighty-night teas. Bam. I can't drive.
So
literally, I
chamomile
can't
can be
drive
really
after I do that
helpful
cocktail.
As well. So on BrainMD Health, we have SAMe, we have omega-3 power, highly concentrated, highest quality fish oil. We also have everyday stress relief that people love a lot, that's got Relora in it, and holy basil. We also have GABA calming with GABA in it. I just want you to know that there are other options than doing something that potentially could hurt a developing brain or hurt your brain. Here on the Brain Warriors Way, we want you to be armed, prepared, and aware to win the fight for your brain's health, because your brain runs everything you do. Stay with us.
Thank you for listening to the Brain Warriors Way podcast. We have a special gift for you. It's an opportunity to win an evaluation at the Amen clinics. All you have to do is subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, and rate us on iTunes.
To learn more about Amen Clinics and the work we do, go to amenclinics.com. You can also learn about our nutraceutical products at brainmdhealth.com. Thanks for listening.